YouTube, welcome back to another Rom's video, and today we got another banger video. As you guys can see the title, we're going to talk about combat training versus weightlifting. We're going to talk about the pros and cons for both and which avenue you guys should go down, depending on which, depending on what skill level you're at, but depending on what suits your needs and what benefits you the most as well at the end of the day. But yeah, I got my own opinion on which one I think it would be best for you guys. But as I said, I'll explain that at the end of the video. But yeah, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, do all that good stuff. I hope you guys are having a good Thursday afternoon actually, as we're recording this. The weather's beautiful in the UK, man. I'll be honest, the sun is sunning, man. The sun is shining as always. So yeah, let's get straight to the video. So where should we start off? Combat weightlifting. Let's start off with combat training, and I'm going to talk about the pros of combat training. And with combat training, what do I mean by combat training? So what I mean by combat training is your boxing, your calisthenics, your taekwondos, jiu-jitsu, like all that kind of stuff is combat training, where it's like fighting sports and stuff like that, all that stuff as well. So in terms of pros, we're going to talk about is the first one. I will say it will humble you quick. I think in terms of combat training, and I think that's a positive. A lot of my people say, oh, that's a negative, but in reality, I think that's a positive. Combat training, it will very, very humble you quick. And I'll tell you a thing as well. When I did start doing boxing, when my friend put me on boxing, I used to thought boxing, well, you know what? You can see it's difficult, but you know what? It's not as bad as what it seems. It's not as bad as what it seems. Especially because I used to do, I still do a little bit, but I lift weights as well and all that stuff as well. But literally coming into the combat thing, I thought, you know what? It's a piece of piss, easy stuff like that. Once you get there, if you guys have been to a boxing gym and you had your first session, you guys remember your first session, it is absolutely humbling. It really, really is. And I think that's the best thing that could happen to you guys. Because if you guys actually really live in reality and not have these false expectations, oh, it's easier than said than done, then at the end of the day, if you don't get humbled, then you're not going to learn in this. Eventually, you're going to get humbled regardless. Like, it will humble you quickly, but you realize that, you know what, this is actually more harder than it looks, you know what I mean? And I'm actually going to take it more seriously and all that stuff as well. But as I said, it's not for everyone, but I generally think that's a positive. And you guys might disagree with me, saying, oh, well, humbling's not a good thing. Well, I think it is, my opinion. So that's the first point I would say, is that it will humble you quick and it will make you realize that it's actually more difficult than it looks as well. That's the first thing. Second thing as well, it will give you much respect for the sport. So kind of going on to my first point as well, when you get that humbling, you respect the sport a lot more. As you guys can see, and I'm sure you guys will see influencer boxing and stuff like that, it does piss me off a little bit. I don't really watch boxing that much, but I do boxing. But it kind of just takes the piss off the sport a little bit. And reality it's probably the most difficult boxing, especially, and just combat training in general, it's probably the most difficult type of sport you can get into. And if you're really good at it and you learn how to do all that stuff, then my respect for you, man, because it is very, very difficult. It's absolutely very, very difficult. And this is the thing, man, a lot of people might take the piss out of it, influencer this and all that stuff as well, but it's a really difficult, man. It's really difficult. So that's what I'm saying. All the respect to the boxers, even if you lose and stuff like that, it's a very, very difficult sport. So you have so much respect for it. If something's more difficult, right, and you get humble about the sport and stuff like that, you're gonna respect the sport. You know what I mean? Because you know that it's not easier than what it looks as well. So that's my second point I want to say, is that. And the third point I want to say for the pros is that it could translate all your skills that you do from combat training into real life. So say for example, like street fights, for example, like most people don't know how to fight. Most people don't know how to fight. People fight dirty. People don't even know what to do. They just do this, do this, and they're thinking, yeah, you're doing something. You're not. You're not, mate. You're not doing anything. So what you could do is, if you know how to do a little jab and you know how to do that stuff, for example, it could translate that to real life. Because God forbid, obviously, I hope you guys don't get into fights. I don't condone it, but it's probably going to happen. Once you get into a fight, you can use that skill that you've learned from, you're doing your boxing or whatever you're doing, and then use that into real life situations, because it could save your lives, man. It could save your life, because, you know what I'm saying, the world's messed up out here, man, and you're probably going to get in a fight as well, especially if you go out and stuff like that, and some drunk person will be like trying to think he's hard or something, and he's going to try to fight you, and then eventually, it's just going to be good. So, and as I said, the third point, it could translate to real life situations as well. So it could actually potentially save your life. And as well, a lot of people sleeping on, man. A lot of people sleep on this as well. Like, it could absolutely, you don't even save your life, it could save someone else's life, you know what I mean, if you know how to fight. So those are the 3 points I want to say in terms of the pros for combat training. I'll say the one con I will say is for combat training, because I've got to be fair, is that you're more risk for injuries. Like you're more, especially if you're doing sparring and stuff like that, you're more risk of getting concussions, you're more risk of getting head damage, memory loss and stuff like that. It is a very, very high risk, high reward boxing and combat training in general. It is really, really high risk, high reward. So at the end of the day, the reward's really good, like, but at the end of the day, the risk is there. So you've got to be very, very careful, very, very mindful of that. So that's the point I want to say about combat training. So now, let's move on to weightlifting. Let's move on to that. So the pros, kind of self-explanatory. You gain a lot more muscle compared to combat training. You don't get more muscle. It's more of a cardio type of sport. Compared to weightlifting, it's there to make you stronger. It's make you there to lift heavier stuff. And I think that's really positive as well. Because if you're just a skinny person and you can't lift up anything, and you might be finished, man. I'll be honest. So you gotta get to the gym. You gotta do that as well. So, and the second point, would say, and this is just my opinion as I said, guys. I'll say gym is way more, like weightlifting is way more enjoyable. I do prefer combat sports in general, but in terms of enjoyability, in terms of, you say, for example, you're going out with your mates or stuff like that, and then you're just doing that little spot session and stuff like that. It's way more enjoyable because you can go at less intensity. You can have a little jog and stuff like that. You can motivate each other, stuff like that. And that's what I say. So if everybody on a bench press and then some guy keeps do some David Goggins stuff like this, like, who's gonna carry the boats? Who's gonna carry the boats? I'm gonna insert David Goggins clip. Right
Good, 22.
Who's gonna carry the boats and the logs?
That's you, buddy. Come on, 23. Come on, 24. One more, David.
Who's
one more?
gonna carry the boats?
You're gonna do it. You're gonna do it. You're gonna do it. You did it. Yeah.
Who's gonna carry the fucking boats?
Who's gonna carry the boats, man? There's one guy, man. I hope there's one guy, yeah, that does that, man. I'm telling you, like trying to motivate you, something like that. But literally, that's what I'm saying. It's probably more enjoyable, in terms of having going out with your friends and stuff like that, and it motivate you and all that stuff as well. And the cons I want to say is, I'll say in terms of weightlifting, especially just go to like a normal gym, say for example JD gyms, it can lead you. You're probably more likely to slack a little bit. Because especially if you go by yourself, because let's be honest, man, not everyone goes 100% in the gym. I say most times you don't go 100% in the gym, and especially if you go by yourself, you can be like, okay, cool, so I've got this back session I need to do. Then, if you do full body, you got to do a full body session, yeah. And then after that, you might be like halfway through it, and you're like, you can't be arsed and just go on your phone and stuff like that. And in the day, you're more likely, especially if no one's watching, you should be like, okay, fuck this, I'm just gonna leave. And then that could happen. And then, or you might just go a little bit more of a lesser way, thinking that you're progressing overload, and in reality you're not. And that's a lot of people as well. And it happens to me, man. I'll be honest, it happens to me. So I'm speaking for myself, and I'm sure I'm speaking for you, the guys as well. Where you can get away with a lot more stuff, and you don't go as 100% as well. And I think another con I want to say, just to add on to that, is I generally think it will lead you to be less agile in terms of weightlifting, because if you're like really, really muscular and stuff like that, you're more likely to be stiff. And I think being stiff is not the way, man. Especially, man, if you want to be like doing other stuff and stuff like that as well, I think because when you're more muscular, you just think you're more like, I want to say it, but like you're more of a reach, like, you know what I'm saying, you're more noticeable and stuff like that. And it's not a bad thing, obviously, because if someone's on your way, you can just pick them up like a little child, you know what I mean? But I'm just saying that in terms of that, it leads you to be less agile and stuff like that. And I think being agile is really important, and being more flexible and stuff like that. So those are the 2 points I want to say in terms of combat training versus weightlifting. Overall, what my opinion is, personally, I prefer combat training. I used to prefer weightlifting. I used to be going to the gym first and stuff like that. But then over time, I realized that I think combat training is the way. I don't lift weights anymore, to be fair. I don't really do that. I'm mostly just learning how to fight. I'm not really taking boxing too seriously, but at the end of the day, it could change. I don't know. You know what I mean? I just do sessions, learning just mainly for fitness reasons and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, I genuinely think combat training is the best way to go. So if I had to pick an avenue for you guys, I'd say try out both, to be fair, because I'm not saying try out one and then just not disqualify the other. Try out both, but personally for me, combat training long term will get you there. I say if you're more skinny and you're just starting off to get, there's newbie gains, I'm sure you guys have heard that before, then I say go with the weightlifting. But overall, in general, long term, I think combat training is the way to go, because your cardiovascular system is the most important bit, man. I think it's way more important than just being muscular, man, because if you have a really good fitness and more of a stamina, you're going to beat someone that's bigger than you. And it's happened before, and I know you guys have probably seen it, where the bigger guy might think he's going to beat someone up, and in reality, the smaller guy learns how to fight, and he humbles them. It's crazy. So at the end of the day, that's the 2 points I want to say. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you guys learned something new in terms of that. Hope you guys have seen the value and stuff like that. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, do all that good stuff as well. As I said, socials and link description. And yeah, peace. I'll see you next video.